In the 8th year of my marriage, I filed for divorce from my husband, who was worth tens of billions, because I met my first love. I remarried for the love of my life with the 2 billion assets that my ex-husband gave me, but I didn't expect that the man would take me abroad and brutally kill me, and then return to China to inherit everything from me. On the 7th day, my grave was deserted, except for a bouquet of white roses sent to me by my ex-husband. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day when I met my first love. "Madam, which one would you wear tonight, this Chanel-style suit or this Hermes silk dress? I want to iron it." The nanny's voice woke me up from my sleep. At this moment, I was lying on the sofa at home, covered with the thin blanket that Alex covered me with before he went out. Alex is my husband. We have been married for 8 years, but he is still as gentle and considerate to me as ever. Over the past 8 years, he has worked hard to expand the company, to the point where its market value is tens of billions, enough for me to live a life of luxury for 10 lifetimes. When I go out, I have a dedicated driver and a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Every season, major luxury brands send me new clothing and bags for me to choose from. When I don't have time, there are 2 dedicated fitters whose figures are almost the same as mine to help me try on clothes. Among the 12 rooms in the house, 4 are used to store my personal belongings. 3 Michelin chefs cook for me with different tastes. 6 nannies and 1 housekeeper arrange my daily life in an orderly manner. On my hand, I was wearing the imperial green jadeite bracelet that he specially picked for me yesterday for my birthday. It was worth a building. I am weak and afraid of pain and don't want to have children. Alex said that being a dink is fine and he is very satisfied with our world of 2. But I, who was taken care of so well, will file for divorce tomorrow. Yes, I will, because I am reborn. In my previous life, my full-time driver took a day off on this day, so the housekeeper hired a temporary driver for me. That evening, I was going to accompany Alex to a charity gala, and this driver was responsible for taking me there. This driver was my first love in high school. At that time, I was young and beautiful, while he was cold and had a strong personality. I had been a good girl for 18 years, and I was attracted to him unexpectedly but reasonably. Later, my parents and teachers found out about this and forced me to transfer to another school, and we lost contact from then on. Alex was the spouse my father had chosen for me, and he was nice really, except that he didn't give me the thrill of a thrill. So, we were separated unexpectedly, and met again after many years. It was like a bolt from the blue. After living for more than 30 years, I decided to follow my heart for once. Anyway, my parents are gone, and no one can stop me. I kissed him passionately in the back seat of the Phantom in the dark underground parking lot. We were so attracted to each other. Then 10 minutes before the party started, I packed my clothes, went upstairs, and took Alex's arm to the table. After I got home, the slightly haggard and distressed figure of that person was still in my mind, so much so that when Alex wanted to be intimate with me, I pushed him away. "Sorry, I'm not feeling well today." Facing Alex's somewhat surprised look, I reluctantly explained. He was as tolerant as ever, reaching out to gently massage my lower abdomen, and speaking in a low voice with a unique sense of pampering. "Is this month early? Then go to bed early. I'll take time to take you to see Dr. Ethan tomorrow." Dr. Ethan is a well-known Chinese medicine doctor in China. Alex used his annual salary of 3 million to buy 1 day of his time every week to treat my body all year round. But he couldn't take me. Because I filed for divorce from him the next day. I don't know why, but I feel like these days are a bit boring. You should be the same, right? Every day, you either come home to watch TV series with me, have dinner and take a walk, or you work day after day. Moreover, my colleagues all joked that no big boss like you would be willing to be a dink. Alex, find someone who loves you as much as you love me, and loves you enough to have a baby for you. I'm sorry. Alex was silent for a long time before he said in a deep voice, "Okay." Then, in just 1 month, he arranged everything and gave me assets worth 2 billion yuan, including RVs. The day we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, he hugged me gently and said in a cold voice with a hint of sob, "I can't bless you, but I respect all your decisions." Later, I got together with that person. I bought him a house and a car, paid his parents' medical bills, bought a college diploma for his sister, and even gave her 1.8 million in advance as a dowry. He was very happy and cooked for me personally. It was simple stir-fried vegetables and carrot soup, but it had a unique, homely aroma. And the sense of fireworks that I have never felt in the past 8 years. After being together for 3 months, we got our marriage certificate and became a legal couple. For my honeymoon, I chose an island abroad and booked a standalone hot spring villa, hoping to spend a sweet half-month with him. But on the 3rd day there, I was forced to leave and was swept away by the rip current. Yes, forced. The man held my head tightly until I floated in the sea, unable to move, and was carried away by the sea. When I was found again, half a month had passed. My body had been eaten beyond recognition and could only be identified by DNA. The man cried uncontrollably on the plane back home, but buried me hastily after landing and then inherited all my inheritance. On the 7th day, my grave was deserted, with mud and water all over the ground. Even passers-by frowned and avoided it. Only Alex came through the mud, holding a bouquet of white roses. He, who was always calm and steady, knelt in front of my grave and cried bitterly. "Madam?" The nurse called me again. I came to my senses and pointed to the cloakroom. "I don't want any of them, I want the dark green cheongsam." Alex had it custom made for me, wanting to match my bracelet as a surprise for me, but I rejected it because of the color. The nanny was puzzled. "Madam, didn't you say last night that my husband has a straight male aesthetic and it must not look good?" I smiled and said, "I was wrong last night." The nanny walked over and muttered, "Actually, I think it looks good too, and it really suits your temperament, ma'am. After all, it cost hundreds of thousands to make, and the material is really great." I slowly stood up from the sofa, drank a cup of tea to suppress the surprise and excitement in my heart, and then changed into a cheongsam. God has eyes, and given me a second chance in this life, I finally know what is good and right. The phone rang. It was Alex calling. "Judy, the driver is here. Please go ahead and I will be there after the meeting." I replied gently, "Okay." After hanging up the phone, his face immediately darkened. The housekeeper was a little puzzled. "Madam, what's wrong?" "No big deal, just change the driver." "I don't want to see that disgusting face again." But the housekeeper said, "We can't find anything else at the moment, and it's too late, so why don't you just make do with it? Then arrange a special car for me." I used to be a germaphobe and didn't want to take online ride-hailing cars. Alex spoiled me so much that I never drove on the road by myself. But now, as long as I don't meet him again, anything is fine. The housekeeper had no choice but to arrange a car for me temporarily. But the car was blocked outside the community by the property management and could not enter. I had to walk for 20 minutes. "Just leave, it's just a matter of losing a pair of high heels." But when I went out with my bag, the man was already standing awkwardly beside the car. When he saw me leaving, his face froze. I ignored him and kept walking. The man's voice sounded behind him, with helplessness. "Judy, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was you. But I really need this $2,000 daily salary to pay for my father's medical expenses this week." Back then, he was the school bully, handsome and cool, and there was no one else in his eyes except me. When have you ever begged anyone in such a tone? I paused, feeling a little bitter for some reason. But this sour feeling is not for him, nor for myself. In his previous life, I gave away half of Alex's assets, which he had worked so hard to earn, to this person. I fulfilled his greed and my selfishness, but trampled on Alex's sincerity. The butler's voice brought me back to reality. "Madam, the private car driver cancelled the order. Look. The villa area is too remote and it is difficult to get a taxi. It is not easy for ordinary people to make money these days, so naturally they want to take the next order quickly. Nannies don't drive luxury cars for fear of accidents. The housekeeper can drive, but he slipped down the stairs a few days ago and still has a limp on his right foot. Although he can walk, it is difficult for him to drive. It takes 40 minutes to drive from here to the party venue, but there is only more than an hour before the party starts, so I need to sign in advance and then meet up with Alex." I made up my mind and pushed the man away, trying to get into the driver's seat myself. But he grabbed my arm and said, "Judy. Madam, let me do it." "Jack, let go." The housekeeper and he both looked at me with some embarrassment, and after a while, he slowly let go. The housekeeper said worriedly, "Madam, it is better to be careful." Jack clenched his hands tightly, his voice pleading, "It's just a few dozen minutes, I'll try to drive faster." "Yes, it's only 40 minutes, what should I be afraid of? I can go with Alex on the return trip." Taking a deep breath, I turned around and got into the back seat. The two men then breathed a sigh of relief, and Jack immediately got in the car, started the car and took me to the venue. Along the way, I looked out the window quietly without saying a word. The faint scent of rose incense penetrates into the nose, bringing with it a hint of romance. The soothing light music eased the awkward atmosphere. Halfway through the journey, Jack asked tentatively, "How have you been, these years?" I snorted coldly, "Can't you see?" Jack groaned for a while before whispering, "Actually, I looked for you back then." "That's enough. I don't want to hear it anymore." But my breathing couldn't help but become a little rapid, and my body felt a little hot. No, something is very wrong. My eyes immediately fell on the incense in the car. No wonder I was so overwhelmed with emotion in my last life. I thought it was because of the excitement of meeting an old friend that I lost my mind and did something wrong. Now it seems that Jack was well prepared. Parking. I had to get out of this small, confined space immediately. But Jack didn't stop. Judy, we are on the viaduct, we can't stop. I glanced at the navigation and saw that my destination was still 15 minutes away, but it would take another 13 minutes to get off the elevated highway. Cover the incense and put it in the armrest box. I spoke coldly. Jack's back stiffened for a moment, but he obeyed. It was just 15 minutes, but to me it felt like 15 years. When the car arrived at the entrance of the venue, I immediately slammed the door and got out. Jack was sitting in the driver's seat, looking at me through the car window, his eyes seeming to carry a hint of sadness. But I'm too lazy to care. I searched for Alex in the crowd, and finally, I saw the familiar tall and straight figure in a black suit. Husband. I walked up to him quickly, smiling and holding his arm. Judy? Alex looked at me with a hint of surprise, but it quickly faded. What's wrong? I said to him affectionately, are you unhappy to see me? Alex's stern face immediately showed a hint of smile, of course not. I just didn't expect that you would come wearing this. I shook the bracelet on my hand to show that what I was wearing was not just clothes, but also his deep yet reserved love for me. We walked towards the sign-in seat amid people's envious gazes. Outside the hall behind him, Jack slowly closed the car window, blocking out the gloomy face. At the party, Alex and I were still the focus of the crowd. The technology company he runs has one of the best chip technologies in the country and occupies half of the market. There are so many people lining up to seek cooperation that it is impossible to count them. As for me, I have a good appearance, a good temperament, a respectable title of associate professor in a key university, and I enjoy Alex's unique favor. I am also the object of jealousy of all the ladies in the audience. When we got home, I climbed onto Alex's shoulders and helped him take off his suit. As expected, his eyes darkened and he carried me to the bed. After making love, I lay in his strong arms and watched the melodramatic Thai drama. He put his arm around me with one hand and replied to work messages with the other. I glanced over and saw it was Kathy, the family vice president. She was Alex's schoolmate, also educated at a prestigious university. She had been a well-known strong woman since her student days, devoted to her career and claimed that men would only affect her speed in drawing her sword. She didn't want to get married, so she went abroad to do in vitro fertilization. Before giving birth, she even presided over a meeting in the company while wearing a hospital gown. Now, she is in charge of her family's overseas business, so there is a time difference and she often needs to communicate work information with Alex in the middle of the night. Alex didn't put up a fight with me. He let me stare at him for a while before he smiled and stroked my hair. What's wrong? Do you want to join the company, too? He was just joking, but I looked up at him. Can I? Alex obviously didn't expect that I would actually have this idea, and raised his eyebrows. Is someone at work causing trouble for you again? He knows how to support his wife. When I first started working, someone spread rumors about me at school, so Alex donated 2 buildings to the school. I snuggled in his arms, thinking of Jack's disgusting face, and whispered guiltily, I just feel that the company and love I give you seem to be too little. He put down his phone, held my face and gave me a gentle kiss. I don't care about that. As long as you are by my side. My nose felt a little sour, and I murmured, Alex. Let's have a baby. Alex is a little worried, but your body. I tried to shake my head. It's okay. For you, I'm willing to give it a try. Even if it means walking through the gates of hell, I'm not afraid. Anyway, I've already been through the gates of hell once. But last time, I paid the wrong person. This time, I won't miss it and won't have any regrets. The matter of having children was put on hold for the time being. Even though I wanted to, Alex took me to see Dr. Ethan, who said that my heart pulse was weak, my body was cold and my blood was stagnant. If I wanted to have a child, I had to take good care of myself for 3 months before I could prepare for pregnancy. On the way back, I took Alex to the milk tea shop and ordered the last cup of milk tea with some regret. I won't drink anymore after this one, for the sake of our children. Alex smiled helplessly at me. The clerk asked me what flavor I wanted. A cup of osmanthus ice cream black tea, without ice. I love this brand of milk tea the most. This is their new product this year, which I haven't tried yet. Alex frowned slightly. Why drink ice again? I put the straw close to his mouth and asked him to take a sip. He reached out and ruffled my hair. Even though his brows were still frowned, he reluctantly lowered his head and took a bite. The young couple behind me covered their mouths and laughed. This is Alex. Even after 8 years, he still responds to everything I say and never refuses me. But he had to leave soon because he had a meeting at the company. He wanted to take me home personally, but I didn't want to be willful like before, so I told him that I would go back to school by myself. Although he was a little worried, time was pressing, so he reminded me to be careful, and only then did he look back every 3 steps before getting into the car. It's only a few hundred meters from here to the school, so I decided to walk there by myself. As the cool breeze blows, I want to sort out my thoughts. But I didn't expect to see Jack again at the school gate. Judy. I don't mean to bother you on purpose, I just want to give these back to you. He was wearing cheap casual clothes and seemed to look similar to how he looked in high school, but his expression was less casual and more mature. He was holding a big box in his hand, which contained all kinds of gifts I gave him during high school. Speakers, headphones, watches, all were famous brands, which I bought for him with the New Year's money I had saved for many years. To Jack, these things were worth a lot of money, but to me, they were just a pile of garbage. And it was a pile of outdated and rotten garbage that had been gathering dust for years. I glanced at it indifferently, throw it away. Also, don't come to me again, or I will call the police. You know, I let you off once yesterday. Thinking of the incense, Jack's face turned red. He lowered his head and dared not say anything. He put down the box and turned away. The security guard in the booth observed us for a long time, and only came over quickly when he saw him walking away. Teacher Judy, are you okay? Who is that man? I have seen him several times before, sneaking around the gate of our school. I thought he was a thief, but I didn't expect he was your friend, Teacher Judy. Are these things still in use? Can I help you move them in? I shook my head. No, just help me throw it away, thank you. Well, Teacher Judy, what you said is true. Boss Alex has taken such good care of our school, why should we be so polite? I watched the security guard move the box away, then turned around to look at the man's back. He walked slowly, and occasionally his pants were wet by the dirty water splashed by the bicycles of passing students. He just looked at them and did not dare to stop people to question them. Wandering around many times? Oh, of course he did it on purpose. The reunion was a conspiracy from the beginning. But his reappearance today proves that he has not given up this conspiracy. I called a private investigator. Hello, please keep an eye on someone for me. The next few days were a bit boring. Since Alex was away on a business trip, I was the only one left at home. If it's early, you can come back in a week, if it's late, it may take half a month. I made an appointment with my best friend to have afternoon tea and asked her about some things that needed to be prepared for pregnancy. My best friend laughed and teased, I was wondering, your husband has so many assets, how can he really accompany you to be a dink? I originally thought he was not capable, but it turns out that he really spoiled you. You say, how can you be so lucky? My face turned slightly red, let me be serious. All right, if Mrs. Alex needs my help, then of course I will be there for her. My bestie said, and started to talk to me while counting on her fingers. During the pregnancy preparation period, you don't actually need to prepare too much. You should take folic acid first. A certain brand is better. Although it is a bit expensive, it is a drop in the bucket for you. There are many things to prepare after pregnancy. Someone will prepare nutritional supplements for you anyway. Remember to switch to skincare products with simpler ingredients, and buy a pregnancy pillow. Pregnancy pillow? I don't understand. Are there any pillows specifically for pregnant women? Of course, it's inconvenient to have a big belly. My bestie took out her phone and searched it, then showed me a picture. Here it is. My heart shuddered. Half a year ago, I saw a pillow like this on the sofa in Alex's office. He told me at the time that he was too busy with work during that time and his back was aching, so he just bought it casually. When my best friend saw that I suddenly became silent, she was a little confused and asked, "What's wrong?" I shook my head and smiled, changing the subject. After returning home, I received a call from the private investigator and an email alert. When I opened it, there was a phone recording inside. It must have been recorded with a bug, and it was very clear. Jack sounded a little anxious though. She seemed to have noticed something was wrong. Now I couldn't get close to her at all. Whenever I saw her, she gave me a sour look and said she would call the police. I might need you to help me create some more opportunities. This task is really difficult. You should understand it best, right? If it were any other woman who was with you every day, she would rarely be so easily hooked by a man outside. On the other end of the phone, an extremely familiar and quiet voice penetrated into my ears, making me feel an unprecedented bone-chilling coldness. I've already given you a chance. In the last half month, if you still can't do it, If you don't make these 20 million, there are many people who want to make them. It's Alex. His voice is the one I am most familiar with. The only difference is that when he speaks to me, he always uses a soft and gentle tone, and every word he says is full of concern and love for me. When he's working, his tone will be like it was just now, calm, competent, and unquestionable. He is in contact with Jack. He let Jack lure me, step by step, into the abyss. But why did he do that? Does he know Jack's subsequent plans? Or was that his plan at all? The image of the weird maternity pillow appeared in my mind again. But the image of him kneeling in front of my tombstone and crying loudly on the first 7 days, looking as helpless as a child, and the bouquet of white roses that contrasted sharply with the yellow mud popped up in front of my eyes again. Which one is the real him? I thought in a daze all night, sometimes confused and in pain, sometimes I fell asleep from exhaustion without realizing it, only to be awakened by nightmares. The next morning, I came to school with dark circles under my eyes. But I didn't go in, instead I searched for the figure at the school gate. Sure enough, Jack appeared again, sneaking around, and froze when he saw me, as if he didn't know how to react. Judy, I just want to watch you from afar. I walked up to him expressionlessly and stared at him. This man was indeed very different from the man he was a dozen years ago. Although his appearance had not changed much, he had obviously been devastated by reality and had almost no strength left. However, there was still a glimmer in his eyes, which seemed to be the only life and hope he could grasp now. That's me. Jack, let's talk. There were few people in the dimly lit corner of the cafe on a weekday. Jack looked at me as I ordered, with some surprise in his eyes. I didn't expect you were still willing to see me. I didn't say anything, just curled the corners of my mouth. The bitter coffee goes down my throat, but I don't feel it is that bitter. It didn't seem to be much worse than the cup of osmanthus ice cream black tea. I really didn't mean to follow you. When you transferred to another school, it was really hard for me. I know that in everyone's eyes I am not worthy of you, but to be honest, I really thought about studying hard, finding a good job, and becoming someone who can stand shoulder to shoulder with you in the future. However, God does not seem to want to give me this opportunity. Now I don't ask for anything else. As long as I can see you from afar and know that you are doing well, I will feel at ease. Jack softly expressed his thoughts and regrets over the years. If it were in my previous life, I might have been moved. But now I don't have the patience to listen to too much. With a ding, the coffee spoon was thrown into the cup by me, making a crisp sound. Jack stopped talking here and looked at me with some confusion. Go ahead. I asked coldly, what is Alex's plan? What did he promise you? As soon as he finished speaking, Jack's face turned pale. You. I looked straight into his eyes, watching the light of hope in his eyes gradually fade away, and still silently waited for his answer. After a few minutes, Jack gave up and whispered, I can't tell you. If I tell you, I won't survive. If you don't tell me, you won't survive. I reached out and knocked on the table, and the imperial green bracelet hit the glass panel, which was very glaring. Anyway, as long as I don't fall into your trap, if you fail the mission, guess what he will do to you? Jack was startled and looked at me with wide eyes. Yes, Alex has always been a person who does things perfectly. If Jack fails to get me for a long time, given Alex's style, he will definitely find a way to keep me quiet to avoid future troubles. It's okay, if you don't tell me, why don't you let me guess? I chuckled, and with every word I said, my heart felt more bitter. He asked you to seduce me to cheat on you, rekindle our old relationship, and then take half of his property and marry you. Then I will marry you, and everything I get from him will become ours. After that, I will die unexpectedly, right? As my legal husband, you will inherit all my inheritance. Anyway, I am alone. At last. I took a deep breath and then slowly said, what will happen in the end? Do you want me to continue? Jack's forehead was already covered with cold sweat. He licked the corner of his lips and asked me in a very low voice, how did you know? You don't have to care. Okay, I said. Jack told me that after he inherited my estate, Alex would send him to overseas casinos. In this way, they would make the money in Jack's pocket become Alex's again. After the matter is done, Alex will arrange for him to immigrate to a country where he cannot be extradited, and give him another 20 million to solve his family's problems, allowing him to spend the rest of his life abroad in peace. Of course, this is what Alex promised him. But it is still unclear whether he will be able to live a rest of his life after he gets out. Jack covered his face in pain. I don't want this to happen either, but I really have no choice. I am just a gangster. I can act arrogantly in school, but in society, no one will look up to me. My dad has uremia, and dialysis is very expensive, as you know. My mom was just diagnosed with breast cancer, in the late stage, and I don't know if she can survive, but at least if she has surgery, there is still some hope. But the cost of surgery is not a small amount either. My sister, she has had 3 abortions. I don't know what her future holds. Maybe her future will end up like mine. I just want to fight for myself and my family. In the case of an unnatural death in marriage, the spouse is the first suspect, so Alex cannot do this kind of thing personally. Even Alex's daily contact with Jack is through the delivery man's phone, and the number and location are different each time, so it is impossible to find out. But I still don't understand. Why does he have to kill me? Jack wiped his face. Promotion, wealth, and the death of a wife are the 3 great fortunes of a middle-aged man. You should have heard of it, right? After 8 years, even a fairy would get tired of it. Even if he divorces you, you still have to take half of his property. That's billions, not tens of dollars. Who would be willing to give it up? What's more, you haven't given him any children yet. That's right, kid. But Jack didn't know that those billions were what I deserved. Alex's father and my father are old colleagues. They were both in research institutes, but in that era people were encouraged to go into business, so Alex quit his job and started his own company. Later, the company grew to some scale, but due to technical reasons, it was still unable to compete with other large manufacturers. The year I graduated, my father introduced Alex to me. He was handsome, rich, and well-mannered, and was the perfect match for many girls. But he only has deep affection for me. After we got engaged, my father got kidney cancer and my mother passed away early. I was too busy to handle everything by myself. Alex went to the hospital to visit my father every day on my behalf and took good care of him, even better than a professional nurse. Before my father died, he gave him all his life's research, and all he asked was that he marry me and take good care of me for the rest of my life. After marriage, Alex's company began to grow rapidly with the help of technological upgrades. But it had only been 8 years and he wanted to break the contract. I warned Jack, you wouldn't be stupid enough to let Alex know that I came to see you, right? Jack shook his head like a rattle, of course. Okay, then wait for my news. After saying that, I picked up my bag and left the cafe. It was drizzling outside and the sky was gloomy. I hailed a car and went straight to Alex's company. Mrs. Alex. The secretary was a little surprised to see me because I rarely come to the company on my own initiative. In everyone's opinion, I like flower arranging, art exhibitions, and everything that is beautiful and fun, but the only thing I don't like is coming to this company building where one feels a sense of urgency as soon as one enters the door. Hello? I put a faint smile on my face. I left some things in Alex's office and came to pick them up. The secretary did not suspect anything and took me into the president's office. I looked around and the maternity pillow was gone, but I could still find some clues. These are all things I had never noticed before. For example, the fresh Phalaenopsis orchids on his desk, the hand-painted mouse pad placed under the keyboard but with a corner still sticking out, the 2 worn toy cars deep in the drawer, and a bottle of children's facial cream in the corner under the bookshelf. I turned to the secretary and asked, have any children been in this office? The secretary was stunned for a moment, then replied, Boss Kevin sometimes brings his children to the company and they come into play for a while. I nodded slightly. Kevin, the person in charge of overseas markets, returns to China once a month to stay for a few days, and always brings his children with him. What a coincidence, Alex is also on a business trip abroad this time. In other words, this shouldn't be considered a business trip. Should it be considered a family trip? Jack has had a rough few days. He kept messaging me but I never responded. He said, actually, what happens between you and your spouse shouldn't involve me, right? He has only given me a sum of money so far, I can find a way to pay you back, can you please not involve me? After all, I haven't done anything yet, right? Judy, I know I was wrong. For the sake of our past friendship, can you please let me go? Just don't let this get out to anyone. I'm begging you to do anything you want. It seems that he is really afraid of being found out by Alex. I didn't bother to talk to him because I had other things to do. I sold that bracelet for $8 million. Then, I transferred all the money to the private detective, and he and his men left the country overnight. Money talks, and soon I received some videos and photos. In the video, Alex is building castles on the beach with Kathy and a 2-year-old boy. They also celebrated their child's 2nd birthday, which was as luxurious as our wedding. He hugged Kathy and kissed her passionately on the deck of the cruise ship. Her suspender skirt was wrinkled by him and he looked so passionate that he couldn't help himself. His attitude was much more passionate than the gentleness and restraint he showed me. I found the right moment and went online at 3 o'clock in the morning while I was abroad, exposing their power for sex transaction with their real names. The exposed information, with both pictures and texts, instantly ignited the search engine. Because of the patent given by my father, I still owned 18% of the company's shares, which I sold at a low price. Subsequently, the divorce was announced unilaterally. Half an hour later, I got a call from Alex. His voice was no longer calm, but trembling slightly. "Judy, calm down. I'm on my way to the airport now. There's something I want to talk to you about in person. Is it still necessary?" I am in front of the computer, sorting out all the phone recordings that Jack gave me. Luckily, he still had some sense enough to record his conversations with Alex. Come to think of it, he had intended to use this to bind Alex, so that they could stay on the same boat for life, allowing him to live out the rest of his life in peace after escaping abroad. After giving me all those things, I promised Jack that I would not give Alex a chance to cause trouble for him. The other end of the phone was silent for a long time before he said, "Judy, I'm sorry. I know there are some things you can't forgive. But you should also understand how I have treated you in the past 8 years. Besides, the company is the joint efforts of our two families. I know. If I didn't have a share in this company, you wouldn't want me to die." After I said this, I packed up all the evidence and sent it to the lawyer. "Alex, it's over between you and me." As soon as Alex got off the plane, he was taken away by the police. Kathy went crazy in front of me because of this. The strong woman who usually was calm, confident and courageous, now pointed at me and cursed at me like a mad woman in the company lobby. "Judy, you are fucking crazy. What good will it do to you if you do this to him? It's you. It's you who refuses to have children, refuses to give him a safe and happy marriage. It's also you who only knows how to enjoy everything he brings you all day long, but doesn't want to think about sharing a bit of the burden with him. Now, you actually want to destroy him and all the hard work he has put in over the past 8 years? Are you still a human being? Don't you really appreciate the kindness he has shown you?" I looked at her, and slowly, I started to laugh. Good. So good that he would hire someone to kill someone just to get rid of me? So good that he cheated me for 8 years and ruined my life just to get my father's patent? He was so good to me that he cheated on me and gave birth to an illegitimate child, and now he still wants me to part ways with him amicably and not take a penny from him? I nodded at Kathy, who looked pale. "This is good, if you want it, then take it." Kathy looked at me in disbelief for a long time, then seemed to be exhausted and slowly fell to the ground. I didn't bother to pay attention to her because the tax bureau people had already arrived. If you grow too much hair, you will eventually get lice. The Alex family's accounts can't be that clean. The family was exposed. The president had an affair with his female subordinate, involved in power for sex transactions, embezzled public funds, and most importantly, was suspected of hiring a killer to kill. Alex family's stock price plummeted overnight, and I actually made a profit on the part one sold previously. Afterwards, the tax audit dealt Alex another heavy blow. Such a big company fell apart in an instant. Also, Jack disappeared. Half a month later, his body was fished out by fishermen on the coast. It turned out that before Alex boarded the plane to return home, he was so desperate that he actually hired someone to kill someone. He probably didn't expect that Jack had already given me all the recordings. On the day Alex was sentenced to death, Kathy went completely crazy and the child was sent to Kathy's hometown. I took the remaining 60 million yuan, quit my job, and boarded a plane to go abroad alone. For the rest of my life, I just want to see the scenery and taste the delicious food. Then find a quiet and beautiful place and grow old together. Judy? I was gently shaken awake. When I opened my eyes, the movie had already ended and most of the audience had left. Alex was looking at me with a smile. "Finally woke up?" I was sleeping like a pig. The Alex in front of me still had that handsome face, but with a hint of immaturity. He was wearing a casual sweater and looked somewhat familiar. This was my first date with him. Since neither of us had any experience in love, Alex chose an art film for us. But I didn't give him any face and fell asleep while watching it. I am weak and afraid of pain and don't want to have children. Alex said that being a dink is fine and he is very satisfied with our world of two. "Let's go, I'll take you to eat." Alex didn't seem to notice. He just took my hand, put his arm around my shoulders, and led me out of the cinema. There is a milk tea shop right in front of the cinema, which is my favorite brand. "Would you like to drink?" Alex saw that I was staring at him, so he took the initiative to ask, "I'll buy you a drink." I turned to look at him and smiled faintly. "Okay." Alex gently reached out and touched my long hair, then walked over. "Hello, a cup of osmanthus ice cream milk tea, no ice." When the clerk heard this, he was stunned and looked up at him. Sir, I'm sorry, we don't have this new product. At that moment, I saw Alex's back stiffen slightly.